Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of NHL Trade Talk Now. My name is Jim Parsons. I'm here with NHLTradeTalk.com. All right, this video, and we had to do a video. We've written so much content about this on the website, and everybody's talking about it. The hockey world is going crazy over this. Tom Wilson of the Washington Capitals gets into a melee, scrum, brouhaha, I don't know what you want to call it, but it was a disaster on Monday night. So between the Capitals and the New York Rangers, there's a net front, net side melee, if you will. He's got Pavel Buchnevich kind of pinned down with his stick, punches him in the back of the head. A scrum ensues. He gets up. Panarin's jumped on his back. He turns around, has about 100 pounds on Artemi Panarin, throws him to the ground. His head hits the ice, picks him up again, throws him down again. Skates off to the penalty box and is bragging without his jersey on, flexing as if he's done something miraculous here. So everybody assumed that Wilson was going to get suspended. He got a 10-minute misconduct. He got penalties on the play, and it didn't happen. He didn't get suspended. He got fined $5,000 by the NHL Department of Player Safety, which a lot of people are saying is absolutely ridiculous. And they're wondering how he got away with it. How is it that Tom Wilson, a guy who's got such a long and storied history of problems with the NHL and suspendable plays, and even this year he got suspended for a hit on Brandon Carlo of the Boston Bruins, how did he get away with this? How does a guy do what he did to Artemi Panarin and Pavel Buchnevich and not get a suspension, especially with his history? Well, here's the deal. Here's the skinny. Here's exactly how he got away with this. So here's what they're saying. Chris Johnson of Sportsnet has said the NHL Department of Player Safety has looked at this in two different ways. One, this play right here, this is the suspendable play or the finable play. So they determined that his pinning down Buchnevich with his stick and then punching him in the back of the head was not worthy of a suspension, but it was worthy of a fine. So that was the first play. That was the one that they looked at and said, okay, this is where we need to do something about it. But not enough to suspend him. This play, the scrum that started with then Artemi Panarin being thrown down and ragdolled and whipped around, was not suspendable. And why they say this is because George Parros, the NHL Player Safety, said this scrums happen in NHL games all the time. In fact, multiple times per game, and they cannot suspend somebody based on that sort of scrum. Something much worse than what had happened to Panarin would have had to happen here for them to look at this as an isolated incident. But because scrums happen in the NHL all the time, this was not a suspendable offense, which is very interesting logic. In a way, it makes sense because they don't want to open up the door to suspending every possible injury or something happening at a scrum because scrums happen all the time. But this is also closing the door on the fact that this is Tom Wilson we're talking about here. Here's a guy with a huge rap list of things that he's done in the NHL that he's not gotten away with. This is the thing that he's getting away with, which is it's crazy when you think about it, because now what you've done is you've opened it up. So let's say, for example, Wilson comes back and they're going to be playing again the Rangers tomorrow. Or another team sees what just happened here, because the NHL has basically said, look, if you get involved in a scrap like Panarin did, or a scrum, you're open. You're free game. You can be tossed around. If you happen to pick on a guy who's 100 pounds heavier than you, well, that's your problem. And if you happen to get hurt, well, as long as he didn't like stab you with his skate or cross-check you in the face with his, it's fine. So what happens if a guy like Matthew Tkachuk decides to start ragdolling a guy like Dominik Kahun? Is Connor McDavid just going to stand there and watch? No, he's going to get involved, right? So now does Tkachuk have the ability to go after Connor McDavid? And because Connor McDavid voluntarily got involved in that scrum, he's now open for business? Doesn't seem right to me. What if you do that with Austin Matthews? Toronto people would be going crazy if somebody did that to Matthews. If they did it to Marner. If Tom Wilson comes back in the next game and targets another star player out of New York, right? If these guys know, these bullies, Tom Wilson is a bully, there's no doubt about it. If he knows that he can do this and he can get everybody to get involved in a scrum, which is a natural thing that people are going to get involved with because they don't want to see their teammates get the crap kicked out of them, then all of a sudden, oh, you got involved in the scrum, I can go after you. And it's a fair trade-off. Tom Wilson will take a suspension or a penalty or 10-minute misconduct if it means Panarin's not coming back for the rest of the season, or if it means Connor McDavid is out for a playoff series. You know these guys will try to do that sort of thing, and they'll get away with it every time now because the NHL has just said it's okay. That's the crazy part about all this, is that the NHL has basically said, hey, look, this is allowed. If you get involved in a scrum, that's on you. Scrums are not suspendable. Something else really big would have to happen here. It didn't happen in Tom Wilson's case. Panarin got hurt, but he's only going to miss a couple games. He fell on his face. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and people are going nuts over this. What's your take? Put it in the comment section. Am I way off? Am I overreacting to this? That this has not opened the door to all sorts of loopholes to target star players? Because the NHL has done a lousy job of protecting their star players. Just the fact that Tom Wilson's involved here probably should have been enough for the NHL to go into this thing and say, it's Tom Wilson. We probably need to do something about this, right? Maybe they didn't, because a 1-game suspension technically means like a 20-game suspension because Wilson has a huge history. Maybe that's what they were doing here. I don't know. But whatever the case is, it opens up a huge problem for the NHL. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. If players are not as bad as Tom Wilson and the mentality is that they're not going to do this sort of thing, it might not be an issue. But if you have a bunch of people who just picked up on the fact that Tom Wilson got away with this, you know other players are going to try it, and they're going to try to get scrums going, and they're going to try to sucker those stars into those scrums. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Put in the comment section. Let me know. What do you think? Am I wrong? Am I right? Do you think Tom Wilson deserved to get suspended? Where do you lie on all this? Don't forget, check out all the other videos. Hit that notification button for future videos coming up here. Go to NHLTradeTalk.com, and we'll talk to you on another one. Thanks, guys.